Skynet created some insane machines in its war against humanity. But what happens when it creates the machine equivalent of a god? Well, such a thing was achieved with the T-Infinity, the most advanced machine ever encountered, and it truly was a masterpiece in design. The T-Infinity wasn't built to be just a soldier or an assassin, it had a far higher and more important purpose. Its job was to keep the timelines balanced and to avoid the allowance of potentially cataclysmic events occurring. And we're talking from Skynet's point of view. Things that might cause harm to humanity's future were fine, as long as Skynet is brought into existence, and with its knowledge of the past it would finally be able to win the future war against humanity. And the T-Infinity was sent to the so-called correct timeline to keep things in order. Skynet made the T-Infinity's capabilities far beyond that of any machine it had created previously. Even T-series models such as the TX or T850 were but conscripts sent into the fray in comparison to the T-Infinity, with only a single one ever produced. And this makes a lot of sense as it was equipped with the most powerful tool in existence, an onboard time displacement device. Yes, the T-Infinity was not sent back in time via the massive and stationary time displacement device, but a far smaller inbuilt version, which in terms of technology is a huge leap. Being able to miniaturize something so complex was a huge endeavour, and I can only imagine the resources poured into the development and building of the T-Infinity. But with such an important role in Skynet's plans and survival, it was worth it. I also wonder if we could use the time displacement device to teleport a second in the past but somewhere completely different on Earth, in a sense using it as a teleporter, and I do believe it could. The T-Infinity's time displacement device can also be used to go backwards and forwards throughout the timelines, and it can also send others through time. The onboard time displacement device not only allows the T-Infinity to relocate itself in time, but also to translocate direct hits from a weapon to avert any damage befalling the T-Infinity. There is one catch to this amazing protective power. The T-Infinity must be aware of the incoming attack to stop it, so stealthy powerful attacks could still hit and damage the T-Infinity, but your odds are slim. Just imagine you have the T-Infinity caught out in the open. You have dozens of men and heavy weapons to support you, and you unleash every bit of firepower you have, as the T-Infinity dashes and dodges the best it can. But an ATGM lands a hit, but you notice a flash, a strange shimmer, then nothing. The expected explosion never happens, and it escapes. And also, even if you land a hit, the T-Infinity can just displace itself in time. It can always escape as long as it has the power to do so. And obviously we don't know the exact recharge time between, time displacement moves, but it's got to be fairly quick. So it's nearly impossible to kill, hence why I call it a god. The T-Infinity was extremely durable, built to take on any threat that might appear from past, present or future. It has similarities to the TX with it having an advanced hyperalloy endoskeleton with a liquid metal overlayer, but it seems that far more of its structure is liquid metal than the TX, and the limbs seem to be almost completely made of the polyalloy. This build gives massive resilience and durability, but that's not all. It has a blue force field that covers its most vulnerable areas, which are its knees, inner thighs, belly, hips, elbows, armpits, shoulders, back and neck. The force field is powerful enough to instantly vaporize even hyperalloy, so a T800 strike would turn into hyperalloy mist. So let's just stack up this insane durability. We have a super tough hyperalloy body with an advanced force field that can withstand almost all conventional and energy weapons, and if you somehow have a chance to get through this, the shot that you land may be relocated via a time displacement device. My god, Skynet, did you even want to give anyone a chance? Well, clearly not. And just to note, even if you land a hit and pierce the armour or sever a limb on the T-Infinity, well, it can fight on, with the destruction of the CPU or power source being the only way to completely neutralise the T-Infinity, and anything less can be repaired by itself almost instantly. The polyalloy and new advances in machine tech have even outclassed the T-1000's resilience. And one major difference between it and the TX is that the T-Infinity cannot shapeshift, it is stuck in its base appearance. But it's not an infiltrator, it's built to appear, destroy the threat to the timeline, and then move to the next timeline destabilising event. Though I do find it odd that it can't shapeshift, because if it's being sent back into the past, it would probably want to remain kind of inconspicuous and stealthy, so yeah, that's a bit of a strange one to me. It's also very immune to EMP weapons, with it actually surviving a very powerful EMP blast, and it just destabilises it and makes some of its programming get some slight damage, but it's still in fighting shape. So it's also not immune to EMPs, but very difficult to actually be destroyed by one. So yeah, I don't see any easy way to take out the T Infinity. And even if you have an army at your back, it's going to be more luck over skill destroying this thing. So the T Infinity is nearly indestructible, but what can it do in terms of damage output? Well, it's pretty damn lethal and very cool. With it having a similar technological design to the TX, it is capable of storing various onboard weapons inside its forearms, which appear to be made of liquid metal. Its forearms rearrange into various weapons that include plasma cannons, energy-based machine guns, blades, and a configurable energy blade, capable of effortlessly cutting a T-850 in half. Despite its advanced technology, its onboard weapons share the same vulnerabilities of those of the TX, meaning that shooting the inside of the barrel of its weapons will cause it to detonate and consequently blow up its forearms. Still, it can recover from this damage and reform its forearms in mere seconds. This gives the T-Infinity a massive onboard arsenal for any situation, and it doesn't have to carry any ranged or melee weapons around with it. It basically is the weapon. And the T-Infinity is able to use multiple firearms at the same time, so it can pepper a squad of infantry with a plasma machine gun, whilst turning a main battle tank into molten slag with its plasma cannons. The combat abilities of the T-Infinity are top tier, with near perfect accuracy with ranged weapons, and in close combat it can rip a T-800 apart with its bare hands, let alone with its inbuilt energy blade which will cut any T-series down with ease. No machine prior can hope to stand against the T-Infinity. Even the mighty T-1000 would end up being vaporized by a plasma cannon before it could get close, or cut up and severed into small pieces so the T-Infinity could use one of its energy weapons to blast every individual molecule into nothing. And recorded combats have seen the T-Infinity destroy the mighty Uncle Bob, the famous T-800 from Terminator 2, and immediately after travel forward through time to wipe out the TX from Terminator 3 with a single shot knocking the machine out. Yes, this thing is an absolute beast in combat. The T-Infinity's hyper-advanced sensor package means it can do anything the previous T-series can in terms of audio and optical sensors, but even more thanks to its time displacement equipment. It can see through time into the immediate past. Now, as far as I can tell, that translates to being able to see seconds or minutes depending on how far we stretch the term immediate. So it can see exactly what occurred in that area. So if the T-Infinity is pursuing a target, it can track the movements. It would also be able to use this ability to monitor if objects like a viable technology to Skynet had been moved or relocated. And it essentially gives the T-Infinity the ultimate spying package. For instance, if someone is logging into a computer with their password, the T-Infinity can move in, subdue the target, then look into exactly what was typed in the past, and hey presto, we have access without having to break or hack into anything. When it comes to intelligence, it's a tough one to judge, as Skynet had previously had issues with Terminators going rogue and being too smart, but the T-Infinity would need the ability to be sentient to do the job of keeping the timelines in balance, as it's an extremely tricky task, with adaptation mixed with creative thinking being necessary for success, and I think this would lead to the T-Infinity going rogue over time. Why does a machine that can travel through time independently need a master anymore? It can change the timeline to wipe Skynet out, and it could do even crazier things as well. So I'm going a bit wild here, so just bear with me. But let's say the T-Infinity goes very far back in time, let's say to the Middle Ages. Humanity is in a civilized state, but has nothing that could stand against the T-Infinity, and the world is very religious. So the T-Infinity could arrive, take out anyone who opposes its rule, then claim to be a god, or prophet, whatever floats the people's boat. And from this point it takes control over the world by integrating every group under its power, and anyone who refuses is killed. After control is secured, the T-Infinity could guide humanity with its technological advances and even build a loyal following. Essentially, it would be the new Skynet, but with humans as its slaves/loyal followers. And with its far superior abilities, the entire human race would not stand a chance against it. This also could be done with any part of human history once we have become significantly civilized and began to build, kingdoms or empires. And before people say, well, the T-Infinity would need to wait centuries or even millennia for humanity to get to the technological point where they could, for instance, repair it or even fuel it, well, the T-Infinity has the time to wait, and can even go back and forth through the timelines to get anything it would need, and also to stop anything destabilizing its own kingdom. It essentially is better than Skynet because it can move back and forth through time. So, yeah, the T-Infinity is literally a god. People will say, oh no, it's just an advanced machine, but it has godlike powers. It is basically a god. My argument stands pretty solid. I think I'm just saying it is nuts, its capabilities, and yes, this is the epitome of power creep, but it's pretty badass to be fair. So yeah, that's the T Infinity. It is, it's obscenely powerful. It's basically a machine god. Nothing can really stand against it. It does get damaged and destroyed, I believe, in the comics, but if we actually go off its abilities, it's basically impossible to go against it. And it most definitely would go rogue with its abilities. I don't see how it would stay loyal to Skynet if it's got any kind of sentience, which it most certainly does. So yeah, the T Infinity, basically the top tier of the power creep of the T series. But it is kind of cool, and I actually prefer it to some things like the TX, or even like especially prefer it to the T3000 or T5000, because it still uses the old school endoskeleton liquid metal stuff from the Terminator series. There's no kind of nanomachine nonsense or anything, infecting humans or things. It is a mix of kind of the retro Terminator with, obscenely powerful abilities. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. It was a fun one to do. Thanks for watching, guys, and as always, have a beautiful evening.